here with the Nerd Astrology, and today I would like to talk about the moon in Libra, natal and transits. So, moon in Libra. First of all, we begin with the moon. The moon runs across the zodiac in about 28 days. It's the closest to the Earth. This is the planet that we use to in magic to draw things in. So we make sure that the moon is aspecting a planet so we can get the energy of the planet into whatever we are doing here on Earth, because this is the closest to Earth. Yin planet, it is ruling also the womb, our bodily fluids. It affects fluids, and therefore we make sure that if we do anything invasive to the body or anything that could get us bleeding, then we would do it on a decreasing moon rather than an increasing waxing moon. So waning moon, not waxing moon. The moon grows into full moon and then goes back into new moon, and it is very affecting of anything that is fluid, anything that is yin. Also, if we're menstruating, we are very much affected by the cycle of the moon, and we get energized by the cycle of the moon. So, this is the moon. In astrology, in the natal chart, it signifies also how we self-nourish. It signifies our caregiver figure, but also signifies our caregiving, what we need for caregiving. It can signify the sort of attachment pattern that we have. Affliction to the moon can be affliction to our attachment pattern, or our relation with our caregiver, especially the nourishing caregiver. That can be the mother or the father, but it is usually the person who is more in their yin, because they had to attune to our moon needs. So, moon in Libra. Libra is cardinal air sign. It's ruled by Venus, and we see, the sign is the scales. Saturn exalts in Libra, um, because it is about making balance, making a structure with rules. So Libra is a lot, it's very Venusian. It's a lot about balance and harmony and beauty, from the intellectual perspective. Yeah, okay. So it's more like a young version of Venus. Not young in the sense of youth, but young in the sense of masculine. Um, and it achieves its balance and um, beauty by intellectual means. Its approach to sensuality can be very intellectual. Um, it means, well, having the moon in this sign means that your way of nourishing yourself is tending to those intellectually aesthetic things. Now, of course, it's an air sign, it's true, but it doesn't stay in the air. It also needs matter to be arranged in a particular order, for it to be pleasing intellectually. And to have something intellectually pleasing, it can mean interest in aesthetic, it can mean studies, it can mean that opening a book about philosophy of, or aesthetic moral philosophy, because this is also aesthetics in the sense of making things beautiful. So this is also a sign that is very nourished by making things right. As you see, it's a very funny way of nourishing. Okay, a Libra can be very distracted by something that is not equal. So if you, for example, are a Libra and you have a small sister, small sister, small brother, that that can be disturbing to anyone. But how to go about equality there? How to go about arranging the space right now? How to go about meeting those needs? So there's equality, there is equity, and only that can send a little Libra child into a dazzling um, phase of conceptualizing things, which in its very peculiar and paradoxical way is actually nourishing, because you need those ethical dilemmas. You need to dwell on the ethical questions of how to balance things, how to make things beautiful, how to make things aesthetic, how to make things right. So dwelling upon this question is actually nourishing for you, even though it is very unnerving. So paradoxes, again, as with any of the twin signs, okay, paradoxes can be something that's very nourishing for you. Dwelling on paradoxes, visual paradoxes, painting paradoxes. Um, Libra also rules our kidneys, so kidney breathings, and air signs. So work with the air, bring it to the kidneys. This is a mental agility process that is also physical and can get you into your body. So breathing into your kidneys can be very relaxing, and it can help you to achieve this mental balance. It can help you to achieve the correct and the balance and to solve the ethical problem when you breathe correctly, when you posture yourself correctly. So you working with the body in a way that is contributing to your mental agility can help you to get into the body, because as always with an air sign, it's not so. I mean, it is a cardinal sign, but it's not so carpal. And to get to the body, you would need to use the mind to sort of um, enjoy or engage with bodily exercise in a way that is nourishing for you. So meditation can be a great act, or mindfulness can be a great act of balancing your body and being aware of all the parts and which part of my body do I feel more, the right one or the left one. You could spend hours on going, over that, which is actually healthy and nourishing for you. If you do that along with a form of physical activity like yoga, that can very well be nourished, and you will be inclined to do so, even if you're tired or something like that. But you do need to make sure you're aware of the body. So anything that could get you to be aware of the body, which part do I feel more, or which, let's say, breathing in. Okay, hold the let's a flower, and which nostril do I smell it more, and try to balance them and try to see what balances the senses. This is something that can contribute to both your mental agility and what you're trying to achieve, and to your self nourishment, because again, you need that mental agility to as a self nourishment, but you also need the body to be to withstand it, so you wouldn't fall into fatigue. Um, and S.J. Anderson just wrote on Twitter about Libra that the triplicity ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is a lot about the mind. So if you haven't emphasized Mercury, in your chart, then you know you want to. You can be like me. Like I'm sleeping because couldn't possibly be standing right now. Couldn't possibly be sitting right now. I've worked myself out and I'm very tired. But the mind is still running. Okay, with the Libra moon, you could experience that also with the Libra sun. Um, so you're going to constantly need to use some sort of mental agility to get to nourish your body, because if you would be bored, then you wouldn't do that. You don't like to admit it because you would like to think that you are fair and you would dedicate time to what you just have to do, to these aesthetics, and you're so disciplined. But you're more inclined towards those things that where you're like to express your uniqueness, you would be in a position, or you would naturally gravitate to a position. And because it's the moon, it's more your intimate life. This is something that your dearest loved one could meet, rather than your sun or your ascendant or your Mercury. This is something that the closest to you could meet. You could tend to actually not just be contradictive. I know with both Gemini and Libra there is the tendency to play the devil's advocate, but it's not necessarily about the devil's advocate with, at least with Libra, um, and because your way of expressing your uniqueness in a society, or in a mental inner society, because inside you constantly try to balance things, and this is why um, dwelling upon the many ways in which things can be equal and unequal is something that could get you busy for a long time, which is why you find it difficult to make a decision, because you don't know how to balance all the parameters, and you're aware of the many things, the many parameters that create power balance or power imbalance. Um, so you could gravitate towards being unique, or situations where you would be giving the balancing opinion, balancing worldview, um, but in a way, because it is the balancing one, it is something that is actually not in synchronicity with the masses. Because people think, oh, Libra, they tend to please everyone. Yes, but psychologically, but in terms of having an opinion, they also tend to see what is right. So you may gravitate into a situation where your only way to rebel, or your only way to being unique, would be in a situation where your worldview, or the right worldview, is significantly different from your surrounding. And this is how you get Librans that you think are people pleasing and are all about balance and to fit in with the people, but balance is not to fit in with the people. And you get them to be very opinionated, and sometimes to have opinions that you wouldn't like, you think, what? But they just um, reached a pattern that of uh, of making things balanced that is unique. So your way of finding your own uniqueness is through achieving a sense of balance in a way that is very um, your own. That this is your style. This is how you achieve balance. Um, and depending on how the moon is aspect, it can be radically more or less radically different. But it is this paradox, because people think, oh, Libra is going to be, people pleasing, and therefore their opinions are going to fit in or blend in, and it's not necessarily the truth. You will find a way to balance things that shows your uniqueness. And this is also something you need to be aware of, because is it nourishing? you are so concerned about balance because you need that. It becomes your personal need. But again, everybody has to show their uniqueness, and the way to go about it is it all in all nourishing. Um, so the indecisiveness again is because there are many parameters to consider, and also they are very dynamic. So if you begin to think about something at one point, the parameters have changed, and then you're just an ongoing thinker that tries to constantly balance things morally, aesthetically, in terms of the opinions. But you're also very aware of the things at their core level because, think about the kidneys. They balance the blood. Okay, they balance. They're a part of what. Um, they're a part of what decides what do we excrete from our body, and they generate both urine and squirt. And just this, every you think about those arguments about is it piss? Oh my god, is it piss? Oh my god, those arguments can get very fiery for a very long time, and nobody will disagree, even though it's like, taste yourselves. Um, but it's easy for me as a Venus in Taurus to say that. With Libra, it's this mental, this intellectual. It's not go with the senses, um, and that is kidneys. you know. Um, they decide on they both make the excretion of what is to go out of the body because it no longer serves the body, or the nourishing excretion, an excretion that is actually nourishing, um, and and all those many paradoxes. So having the moon there natally, it's where it's expressed in your self nourishment. Um, you need mental agility to get to your body and to meet your own needs. The mental agility of, if I nourish myself, then I'm more able and competent to be a part of something. Um, so you would need that little mental agility that says, oh, I have to meet my needs first, and then to figure what your needs are can be very, because your needs are balanced. So how do you feel your needs first? But then the balance, think about the balance of the body. Which part do I feel more? Which part do I feel less? What needs to change? Breathe into the kidneys, and then you get the correct. You can make this um, balancing desire or balancing need that you have about your body, about the boundaries of your body, and from there, which is something you probably tend to naturally do to control the room or to balance the room. Yeah, you wouldn't use the word control, but it is control. You need the room to be balanced. You need to control the room. Okay, and this is also how you go about your personal power and how you go about um, your emotional needs and your need to control something you understand very quickly, very the dissonance between wanting things to be equal and wanting control over the world is something you understand, you know, probably at a very early age. You just don't talk about this because you don't, not necessarily because you consciously want to hide it, but it's so clear to you. Um, but it is also clear to you who doesn't see that, who doesn't identify that. Um, and so you reach your power by an image of fairness. An image is something important here. Um, so yes, it's a very intricate sign. As for the transit is only 2.5 days. So in these 2.5 days, depending on how your Venus is aspected natally and what is Venus doing right now in the sky. Right now Venus is in Virgo. Okay, so on a mundane level, the moon is now Venus ruled, and Venus is in Virgo and she opposites Neptune. But this video is not just for now. If you have a transit and the transit is a moon in Libra, so for 2.5 days, the moon is Venus ruled. You need to look at where Venus is. You also need to look at what aspects does the moon make. But just the notion that the moon is Venus ruled from Libra, this is a time where self nourishing takes on dwelling on issues of aesthetics in terms of balance and harmony and beauty. Of kidney breathing can be very relaxing in those days. Um, Balancing relationships with intellectual means, that can also be communication. Balancing interests. Um, it is a time where it may be more accessible for you to put yourself in the shoes of another, but understand that you're putting yourself in another person's shoes is not just diplomacy, but it's also an act of control. Um, because if I see my interest, think about business. Okay, the tactic of a business person that says, "Oh, I see your interest," and that first of all may or may not be the interest of another, but then this is also an act of control. I control the situation. I know what is your interest, I know what is my interest. I don't wait for you to tell me what's your interest. I already know that you want this and that and that and that and that, which may or may not be true. And here I'm answering this interest so that I can get control of the situation. Not necessarily a bad thing, so I can meet my need. But there's also the issue of care and control. And if somebody is doing this tactic with you, then you're more able to see, you're more able to permeate through and see, are they just, anxious to meet your needs so that they can meet theirs, or they're also trying to control you, and to present something as equal, which may or may not be in this way because their tactic is to show that something is equal, so that can act on an image level, and you're more able to perceive that now. Again, any mindfulness technique that you compare this side and that side, which side do I feel more, and just being aware of that, that can help you. It can also help you with understanding how your body is in connection with the grander world, how you are in connection with the grander world, which may or may not be scary for you depending on your, personal um, disposition. On the mundane level, this is a time where um, both inequities can be exposed and discussed and brought about to be balanced, or there can be an attempt to present an image of bringing something into balance, which is in fact tactic. So, for example, if somebody has their Mars in Libra, their tactic of control can be to present an image that something is balanced where in fact it isn't. But it will be easier for you to understand that. With the moon, it's an emotional level. Are your emotions balanced? And you will try to balance your emotions again with these breathings, with comparing one side to the other, with balancing things, because your emotional unbalance stems from an actual imbalance in the physical or the ethereal or the etheric world, which you will tend to bring into a sort of equilibrium, um, a dynamic equilibrium, in order to self care, basically. and your self-care method um, can be quite interesting and intricate. So, um, Tali Share on Twitter, Shelly Youngblood on Instagram. I do the reading. It's $50 for a reading, and I do have a service where I tell you what crystals are good for you to work with, which is in no way talismanic or even remedial. It's just looking at your chart. Um, you're asking me a question, and then I see what crystals are related to this question, and I can give you the recommendation for you. It's not going to remedy your chart necessarily or directly intended to that, but it is going to help you to reach a new equilibrium with the question in hand. So, bye bye. I'll see you in my next video.